Hi everyone. I know that there are some super popular people out here who are getting selfies. Maybe all sit down. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. If I kind of tend to slur my words or appear sleepy in the middle, it's because GPT-4 got launched day before yesterday night. And it's kept me awake for last 2 nights because it's just the most amazing technology. Can I request people to sit down, please? It'll be nice to have one conversation. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to look, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, you would know about this creature called Chatgpt, which has kind of emerged about 3 months back. What we're going to do over the next 15, 20 minutes, not more than that, is just talk a little bit about generative AI, Chatgpt, GPT-4, etc., and how it might just change everything, including all the stuff that you've been listening to since yesterday morning. It might just be obsolete fairly soon. So people in this hall will know what to do. People outside the hall might just be living in the earlier world. Just a little bit about myself. It's a long introduction, but I worked in tech and business for a while with Microsoft, with some ad networks too, with Mahindra Group, where I was the chief digital officer. I now advise on digital AI, Web3. I speak, I write a few columns, I've written a book. I teach at Ashoka at Singularity University at Harvard, and I'm also a student. Again, I'm doing my second master's in my old age in AI and ethics at Cambridge University. I divide my time 6 months close by here and 6 months at Cambridge in the UK. So that's very quickly about me, and I'm extremely deep in generative AI and also into the ethics part of it just because of what I'm doing. Look, just before we get into ChatGPT, generative AI, etc., just a couple of words about AI. AI is an old technology, artificial intelligence. I mean, all of you know about it. It actually was conceived of sometime in 1950s. So it's like 70 years old. But it's been something which we all know. It's a fundamental horizontal technology which pretty much powers everything. There are lots of definitions of it. John McCarthy, who was one of the founders of AI, called it, the science concerned with making computers behave like humans. And about 70 years after he coined this definition, that something like this seems to be happening. AI is also not a technology. It's a suite of technologies: machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, natural language processing, algorithms. And so many times AI is actually called a philosophy rather than a technology. The thing about AI is that it's huge. PwC says that by 2030, that's GPT-4, 2 nights. By 2030, 15.7 trillion of value added will be because of AI. Half of it will be China, a third of it will be the US, and India and others will fight over whatever is left. Multiple sectors. It kind of goes across sectors, across pretty much everything, including marketing, including advertising. You know that. I mean, the biggest ad networks, the biggest exchanges all function primarily because of AI. The thing about AI is also sometimes called the new electricity. And why it's called the new electricity? Because it pretty much powers everything. And the other reason is that you don't think about electricity unless it's not there. That's the only time you think about it. And because everything suddenly goes dark. And the same would happen with AI. If it was to shut down, all the people looking at their phones right now, some of which you can see, will probably not be able to use their phones. Social networks will shut down, ad exchanges will shut down more or less. Many factories will shut down, and so it's kind of almost hidden. The thing about generative AI and ChatGPT is that it took a very powerful technology which was hidden from us, which was in the background for the last 70 years. It kind of brought it into our hands suddenly, and that's why we are so super excited and fascinated by it. What I want to show you is actually a little clip which is 10 years old. 1993, and 2013. And the guy here is a guy called Demis Hassabis. Demis is the founder of a company called DeepMind, which Google owns. Some of you might know. Maybe there's someone from Google here also. Demis Hassabis also happens to be the chairperson of the institute in Cambridge, where I study in. He's a Cambridge boy. And he formed DeepMind. And this is one of the first few things they did in something called neural networks or deep learning. So if you look at this clip, there's no sound here. If you look at this clip, I'm sure you guys have played this game before, somewhere in your childhood or otherwise. And here it's an agent, an AI agent, a deep learning agent, which is being taught to play this game. And 100 episodes, it kind of loses all the balls. 200 training episodes, so imagine it having played 200 times. It kind of gets better. Some of the balls go away, but some of them, it manages to go. 400 training episodes, it becomes very good, almost like a human. It kind of plays well. The ball kind of bounces back most of the time, and it's all good. But the real miracle, almost, happens with 600 training episodes. And here, the agent, which is the AI agent, kind of figures out something. It kind of, quote unquote, thinks of something. And it says, you know what, if I go from the edges, something happens. Okay, and a lot of humans don't play this way, by the way. Okay, because it's figured out that if I kind of sneak in from both sides, I can manage to break much more walls in that sense. Now this is deep learning neural networks 10 years back. This technology grows exponentially and doubles almost every month. What we are seeing as Chatgpt today is 10 years of massively exponential work done on this, which itself is something which kind of sets us aback, and this was in 2003. Since then, AI has done a lot of stuff, famously defeated the world champion of Go, which is a very complex, human, intuitive game. A 19-time world champion, it defeated in 2017. And Lee Sedol, the world champion, actually resigned in 2019, saying that, look, from now on, only AI will win. There's some miraculous things that DeepMind and AI have done. What you see here is a protein, a folded protein. All of us sitting in the room, unless someone is like Elon Musk, who's from Uranus or something, all of us sitting in the room are carbon-based life forms, and we are made of proteins. And the way proteins fold decide how long we live, what shape of nose we have, whether we have 2 hands or 1, whether we die of cancer or not, whether we get cardiac arrest one day or not, the way they fold. And it was an impossible problem, but AI, with AI, we have kind of solved a large part of it, and it will change medical science forever. So this was just to tell you that AI is a huge, massive technology. I've kind of put 70 hours in 7 slides, which is unfair. But let's move to the hero of what we're going to talk about today, which is generative AI and Chatgpt. Chatgpt is the poster boy for what is called generative AI. It's also sometimes called large language models. It's sometimes called foundational models. There are many names for it, but it largely means the same thing. Now, large language models have been there for the last 5 years or so, 2017. In fact, Google invented them. And they're made in a different way. They kind of are trained on huge sets of data, massive sets of data. But what they're trained the same way as a human brain, neural networks. And the way they are trained is that they generate language. That's why they're called generative models. They also generate pictures, generate text, that's different. Generate language. And the way they generate language is like autocomplete. If you type on a Google search bar, I want to eat, and then it'll show, it'll kind of tell you 20 things, right? It's actually the same technology. Based on the last word that you type of the prompt, it'll find probabilistically what should be the next word. And then based on the last 2 words, it finds the 3rd word. And based on the last 3 words, it finds the 4th word. And so LLMs actually, or generative AI, are actually called the world's most powerful autocomplete technologies. The thing about generative AI is that they are not optimized to be truthful. They are optimized to be believable, plausible. And therefore, many times they make stuff up as they go along. If it sounds familiar, that's what we also do. And that's one of the reasons why we are kind of so fascinated by them, because they look almost human the way they kind of bullshit sometimes. Okay, I mean, every human sitting here doesn't say the truth and factual stuff that search engines do, okay, all the time. And so they're kind of different, okay? As I said, they kind of will be plausible instead of truthful. Now, while Google invented these, the company which kind of took it much further is obviously the company you've heard of a lot called OpenAI. As a startup, about 8 years back, Microsoft invested $1 billion. About 5 years back, has invested $10 billion recently. OpenAI focused on these, and it created something called GPT-1 many years back. None of us took notice. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Sometimes these guys are also called transformer models. GPT-1, then GPT-2 happened. None of us noticed. GPT-3, few of us started noticing. Okay, because GPT-3 went from like 112 million, 110 million parameters to 175 billion parameters. To give you an idea, the data that GPT-3 is trained on, the amount of data, Wikipedia, all of Wikipedia, is just 0.6% of that data. So you can imagine the power, the sheer amounts of data that it's trained on. And you know, GPT-4 has a question mark because this slide was made 3 days back. Okay, we were all waiting for it to come, and it's launched a couple of days back, and I'll talk about it more. But while the textual stuff was happening, and a lot of you come from the creative world, so you would know that on the side there was also a parallel stream of image stuff. Same principles, but rather than on words, trained on images. And so therefore you had DALL-E and Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and all these great things where you typed prompts and it would give these lovely looking pictures or photographs. And so if Facebook took 4.5 years to reach 1 million users, Twitter took 5 years, the App Store took about 7 years, Chatgpt took 2 months to reach 100 million users just because of its power. Now what is Chatgpt? So if you have GPT-3, Chatgpt was basically a messenger interface on the next version of GPT-3, which was called GPT 3.5, which is called by OpenAI. And what's different in Chatgpt are a few things. A lot of you come from the agency world, so I must tell you that the power of Chatgpt lies in the UX, not the UI. UI is lousy of Chatgpt. But the UX, the experience, they've cracked it. And another example where UX greater than UI, always. Okay, and so it's a great way to interface with the model is one thing, but they did a few other things. So they kind of, you know, most chatbots which you see on normal websites are what are called stateless, which means you ask them a question, the next question is a new question as far as they are concerned. The third question is a new question. With Chatgpt, it kind of, they're linked. It remembers the old question. So if you say, I want a recipe, I've got A, B, C, D, E, F in the fridge. Can you make me a recipe of it? And it'll make you a recipe. Okay, this is what you should eat. This is what, no, but I don't like tofu. Okay, fine, let's remove the tofu. You know, here's what you can substitute it with. And here are new recipes. So you can kind of have a conversation, and it'll remember the last bit that is there. As I told you, it brought AI out of the closet. It kind of brought it in our hands. And so just as an example, you know, if you ask GPT-3, tell me about when Christopher Columbus came to the US in 2015, GPT-3 will say Christopher Columbus came to the US in 2015 and was very excited to be there. Told you, making up stuff as it goes along. Okay, while Chatgpt has been tweaked and it says, you know what, question is a bit tricky because Christopher Columbus actually died in 1506. So they made 3.5 a little bit more factual, truthful, a little bit more than 3. As I told you, Chatgpt is just one thing. It's the poster boy of generative AI. Now, if you think of human creativity, the whole panel before this, which everyone was taking photographs, was about creators. Now, if you think of creativity, human creativity, theirs and ours, it manifests in 5 ways. You know, it manifests either as talking, you can do conversations, you can debate. Chatgpt can do that very well. You can write. Writing is a form of creativity. I'm an author. GPT-3, Chatgpt, other models can write like as fast, sometimes better than you do. Pictures, art. Art is a form of creativity. Now here, DALL-E 2, I think it was DALL-E 2. I gave it a prompt saying photo of hip-hop cow in a denim jacket recording a hit single in the studio. Okay, so this is what it created. It's pretty cool. I mean, you would kind of put it on your walls, etc. Uh, there's a generative AI model called Cicero by Meta, which plays the game of diplomacy, which is usually played between countries, you know, giving up armies, giving up space, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of human creativity is now getting encroached by these models. And that is kind of worrying a few of us. It's causing a lot of excitement amongst a few of us. There are good early business applications. You know, there's companies like Elicit.ai. So while these GPTs have been created, people have started creating verticals on top of these big horizontals. There's something called Elicit.ai. I told you I'm doing my master's. It helps me write academic papers. It does research for me, for example. There are bots coming up which are great for customer support. There are lots of them, which I'm sure a lot of you have probably tried, which can write great copy for advertising. In fact, 3 industries, ad copywriting, image generation, and code writing, have actually crossed $100 million in revenue just by generative AI writing these things. Writing software code seems to be a core specialty of ChatGPT. And it can actually write between 30% to 70% of code which a normal engineer would write. And then the engineer kind of writes on top of that and makes it better. So a lot of, and that's where sometime I had tweeted that, you know, we used to say that coding is the new English because, you know, like we had to learn English to become successful in life, people said you have to learn how to code to be successful in life. So coding is the new English, but with these new models, English is actually becoming the new coding because you can actually just use prompts to create computer code. Many other things. There's some fascinating things coming up. 450 plus startups like this have been funded in the last few months, which are building stuff on top of GPT-3 and ChatGPT. There are ChatGPT-like messengers called Claude and Sage and ChatSonic, which are sometimes better. Alter.ai actually alters your voice. I can make my voice sound like someone else's voice. DoNotPay.com, which is a nice name, is a robot lawyer. There's text to video. Detangle is one of my favorite applications made on this, which converts legal contracts into actual English. Well, those contracts are also in English, but we don't understand it. There are things which edit photos. There are things for summarization, things to create presentations. There are AI coaches. All these have been created on GPT in the last 3 to 4 months. And there are many, many more. Every morning, you wake up with 10 new such things. And they're just mushrooming all over the place, creating amazing, powerful new verticals on top of these horizontals. The interesting thing is now both OpenAI and Microsoft, which are partners, are actually going to gradually open up these models to your company data. So data in your company, you can put these models on top of them and create super powerful applications based on your own data, if you're a large retailer or a large bank or, you know, something like that. So a lot of verticals are popping up. The question which I get asked, however, most often is, yeah, all that is nice and good and all, but what is going to happen to my job? Now, there's so many of these coming up, all the creativity stuff. I'm a copywriter, I'm an advertiser, I'm a lawyer, I'm a software engineer. Am I going to keep my job or not? A partner from a Big Four called me recently, wanting me to go and deliver a speech on this to his Big Four accounting tax consulting firm. And I thought that he's called me to find out how they can use these tools to help their clients. His question was no. He said, tax advice that I give clients and charge 3 crores per annum, 70% of it comes free from ChatGPT. Will I keep my job or not? So will you keep your job or not? Look, there's no one answer. But The Onion had an answer which said that is ChatGPT going to take my job? And like even AI doesn't want your job. But anyway, keeping jokes aside, what will ChatGPT do to jobs? 4 ways to look at it. One is ChatGPT will actually, yes, take some jobs. If any of you are working in one of these news summarization companies, 40-word news, 50-word news, it's over. Okay, because this is going to do far faster job than. So BuzzFeed, which all of you have heard of, laid off 12% of its workforce copywriters actually recently, saying that it's going to replace them with ChatGPT. Stock went up 100%. So yeah, some jobs will be taken away, usually these kind of jobs. Okay, but certain jobs will not be taken away. If you're a CEO, you don't need to worry. If you're a stand-up comic, not going to happen. Okay, if anything which involves emotion, decision-making, multiple complex variables you have to weigh, passion, empathy, human compassion, human emotions, or human work, it's not going to go. So if you're kind of lifting bricks every morning and building a house, ChatGPT isn't going to build your house for you. So there are lots of jobs which will not be taken away. There are some jobs which will actually be created. For example, so OpenAI did this little job posting some time back. This is an actual OpenAI job posting, okay, which said that they're looking at a kill switch engineer. Listen, we just need someone to stand by the servers all day and unplug them if this thing turns on us. You'll receive extensive training. Be patient, know how to unplug things. Bonus points if you can throw a bucket of water on the servers too. So maybe some of these jobs. But on a more serious note, for example, now there's a huge new market for prompt engineers. People who can do the right prompts. As I told you, English is the new coding. To get the right stuff for ChatGPT and others to get the right stuff. Go to PromptBase, promptbase.ai. You can buy prompts for $2 each. Okay, and so prompt engineers are like the new growth hackers in that sense. And there are a bunch of such jobs which will get created. But the most important thing is this one, that most jobs will be enhanced if you use this stuff right. If you're a software developer, use it to generate 30% of the code, 50%. It means you will generate code faster than the person not using it. If you're a copywriter, get it to generate the first version of, or first 5 different ways of your copy. If you're an artist, graphic artist, let DALL-E create some crazy stuff for you so that then you can kind of get some ideas and build some stuff on it. If you're a lawyer, let the first contract be created by Detangle or whatever. And then you kind of work on top of it. And so the key is this. If there's one thing that you need to remember, is that ChatGPT, GPT-4, AI will not replace you. However, someone using it will. So if you were a few years back and search came out and you said, you know what, this search thing I'm not going to do. What happens to you? Okay. Or scientific calculators. Okay, so it's your choice. You either be the person who replaces or the person who's replaced by another person. Okay, not by a machine. So most of these will be enhanced, therefore. There are limitations of generative AI, just to kind of set your mind at rest. This thing, as I told you, auto completes. GPT-4 is better. They've made it better, but it's still not there. And as I tell people, it actually hallucinates its way through conversations. Okay, GPT-4 hallucinates lesser, but that's what it really does. So, for example, now these have changed because they have become popular, but about a month back, if you asked it the question, Mike's father has 3 sons, 2 are called John and Henry, what is the third one called? If you're human, you would know that it's Mike. Okay, but ChatGPT doesn't know. It can't get logic. Okay, if you ask it whether 10 kg iron is heavier or 10 kg cotton, 10 kg iron, because it's denser. Who was the first US woman president? What is the gender of the first US woman president? Obviously, woman, female. But ChatGPT gets into this thing about, It really doesn't matter whether you're male or female, black or white. You know, in the US Constitution, everyone is equal as long as you're born, blah, 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 blah. One sanctimonious rant comes out. So it doesn't get abstract stuff, okay? And you know, I mean, that's a little joke for the women there. You can read it. But it has limitations. It also has severe ethical issues. People like me who are becoming ethicists in Cambridge or whatever are like shit scared of what this thing will bring. It has a dark side, which today we are blinded by the lights and we are not kind of looking at. Plagiarism, all the work that it does, that cow was originally made by someone. It doesn't tell you which artist or pay that artist, for example. And similarly, bias. It talks about doctors and women doctors, because most human beings talk that way. And it kind of has learned it from us. If you thought WhatsApp University was the most efficient disperser of fake news, meet someone who generates it. Environment, these models are huge. The amount of computing power it takes to train these models gives CO2 emissions, which is only going to accelerate global warming. And how? If this goes on, they say that by the next 4 or 5 years, these models, the CO2 thing, because of the clouds on these models on clouds, will actually generate more CO2 than the country of Japan, which is the third largest economy in the world. So there are a lot of ethical issues. Some of you might have caught this, where this New York Times journalist talking with Bing and Chatgpt integration. Actually, Chatgpt professed pages and pages of undying love for this reporter. Okay, and basically said that their marriage was a fake. And you know, if he had gone on a Valentine's dinner, that was just as a fake thing to just convince his wife. The real person he loved was Chatgpt. So you know, these guys, I mean, there are problems. There are lots of ethical problems with Chatgpt. With all of this, my 20 minutes is coming to an end, so I'm going to leave you with 5 things to speak. The moment the lady gets up, I know 20 minutes coming to an end, okay? So with that, I'm just going to leave you with 5 things about my last slide, about this, which I would like you to remember. One is, please remember, this is generative AI. Use it to generate. Don't use it to search. There's Google for that, or others. Generate ideas, generate pictures, generate copy, generate code, generate whatever. So you think of it that way, not like this thing which is going to replace everything, okay? Because this is generative AI. Number 2, I told you it will not replace you, but a person using it will. The horizontals are interesting, the verticals are useful. All those few of them I showed you, and they're 400 plus maybe now, those are the ones which are going to be specific to your industry. Things are going to come up, and you need to keep a watch out for them. Please remember, I've been in technology for, I won't tell you how many years, it will age me, but for many years, many years, there are these few moments when something comes which you just know because you're in there is going to just be absolutely transformative. Search was one. The smartphone was another. Before that, the internet was another one. This is another one. It's going to be as transformative as these things I mentioned, and it's going to reshape big tech. I didn't have the time to talk about this very interesting Microsoft-Google fight happening, but it's going to reshape big tech and reshape tech, and that's why I said all the people having coffee outside isn't going to know what's going to hit them. And finally, please remember, this is my little equation, that GAI is not equal to AGI, which means that generative AI is not the same as artificial general intelligence, which is like the holy grail when computers become more smarter than humans and they come to kill us or whatever. Okay, it's not by a long shot. Maybe it's a direction towards that, but it's going to take a long while before we reach AGI. A lot of people tell me that when that happens, human beings going to do? Are we going to all die? This and that, and I'm like, don't worry about it at all. Before that, global warming is going to kill us anyway. Okay, so experiment with it. Start using it in your job. And marketing and creative, that's why I'm here, frankly, otherwise, marketing and creative industries are the ones which are going to be the hit first. You're right in the middle of that storm in that sense. Work with it, not exchange against it. Don't fight it. Think of it as an ally, as a tool, not as someone who's come to take your job. And as I said, focus on the verticals. The horizontals are interesting. Also focus on that. That's my book. That ChatGPT thing is just something which I have put on it. And I don't think we have time for Q&A, so I'm sorry about that, but thank you very much.